any state are broken, a duly authorized organization swings into action. It may be called the state police, state troopers, militia, the rangers, or the highway patrol. These are the stories of the men whose training, skill, and courage have enforced and preserved our state laws. In the endless battle against crime, law enforcement agencies are sometimes called upon to apprehend a particularly elusive type of criminal, such as the professional check forger. The thief with a pen has one unique advantage over the thief with a gun. A worthless check is like a bomb with a delayed action fuse. By the time the damage is discovered, the criminal is miles away. The passer of forged checks is not necessarily a glib, well-dressed con artist. In a manufacturing area, he may look like any honest factory worker. Or the forger may appear to be an average housewife, presenting her husband's paycheck to a neighborhood merchant. Late in May, the Highway Patrol became aware that a ring of highly skilled check forgers was operating in the state. Their targets were manufacturing plants employing large numbers of workers in semi-skilled capacities.
4 firms have been victimized in the past 2 months, including yours. These crooks are experts. But look, they're human. They got to make mistakes someplace. We're going to send the checks to our lab for the full treatment. I'll let you know.
Highway Patrol laboratory technicians subjected the forged checks to careful examination. The printing was identified as to type style, and the paper stock analyzed by experts.
Those signatures. Anything we can trace in our forgery files?
Not yet, but we know this much. The handwriting experts are sure that the checks are being endorsed by 5 or 6 people using 30 different aliases.
30 sets of phony identification. That's going to make it rough to find the passers.
Yes, they'd have to be caught in the act.
Well, we can't do that unless we know where they're going to hit next. What about the checks themselves?
They're not only excellent forgeries, it's a thorough job of counterfeiting. Look, this is a microphotograph of a check used in the last job. They've even duplicated the type using one of the real checks. And they've matched the paper stock, even to the watermarking and identifying patterns.
Well, our job is to find out who's printing the phony checks. We'll get in touch with all the supply houses, find out where he's getting his type and paper.
This is going to be a rough job. There are over 100 printers who could stock that paper and type.
There's one thing in our favor. The guy that did this, he's not a legitimate printer.
Paper manufacturers and type foundries supplied the Highway Patrol with names of printing firms and stationers that had ordered paper and type of the kind used in the forgeries. One by one, proprietors were questioned and shown blank samples of the check paper. No one shop or store had all the various kinds of paper used in the crimes. Each of the firms contacted had unblemished reputations.
Well, another blank.
Yeah, but we still haven't run out of print shops. Where's the next one?
Oh, see, there's one over in the 800 block on 6th Street.
Let's go to 6th Street.
Scovo.
What's this?
Handbills for a charity dance. It's a worthy cause, so I cut the price to $16. They all want something for nothing.
It's a good investment. Helps your friend. Nice, Mr. Scoville. Here, have a look at this. It's a payroll check on the McGraw Cement Company up in Bradley.
Our next job?
Yeah. Do you have any paper on hand like this?
No, but I can get it without any trouble. The type's no problem. 8-point Bodoni.
Okay. When can you run out 50 of them for me?
How about next Wednesday?
Come on. This outfit's payday is next Thursday. I've got to have time to copy those signatures. Besides, I've got to get that sample back to Mosier so he can cash it.
Well, supposing he doesn't. It's only for $48.
An uncashed check in the company books would be like footprints in the snow. How about Monday?
Oh, sure, if I lay off some of these legit jobs here.
That's not so good. The happier you keep your regulars, the better your front is.
Well, I guess at these prices I can afford to lose a little sleep, huh? I'll have them ready for you Monday.
Good. I'll see you.
Bye.
The victimized firms are all in small towns, right in this area. The date and the forged checks show that the gang is working north. They use the same M.O. Passers unload their checks at different markets. Use phony identification. Their take, well, averages about $3,000 a week.
I have a question.
Yeah, what?
All these checks are nearly perfect. Obviously, the crooks are working from samples. How did they get them? Bribe someone working in the bookkeeping department of the companies?
Bringing in a new outsider for each job, that'll be too risky. There's got to be an easier way. Each one of these outfits has got a normal labor turnover and unskilled labor. Be easy for a member of the gang to work for a couple of weeks for a legit paycheck and then quit.
And then move on to a new job?
Yeah. We'll keep checking the payrolls of these different places. We might come up with a drifter who was working there before the checks were cashed.
What if they use phony names?
They probably do. That's why we got handwriting experts. Matthews. Who? Oh, Mr. Lynn. Yeah, sure, I remember. Oh, what's the address? 1547 6th Street. Thanks for your help. Paper company just gave us a lead in the printer. Let's go take a look.
35 good ones. I'm up the signatures on these. Burn them.
Well, they'll look all right to me.
Would you like to try to cash them? Never be careless with the signatures, Scoville, especially someone else's. After I give these out to the passers up in Bradley, I'll run Mosier up to Earnshaw. If he gets in the wire plant up there, that'll be our next job. Now, don't forget to burn those checks.
Righto.
Matthews, Highway Patrol. Have you got any paper like this?
No, we haven't. The reason I'm so sure is this. A few months ago, we printed this little book of poems for a wealthy woman. She wrote them herself. Odd kind of paper for a book of poetry, but that's what she wanted.
It sure is odd. You haven't got any of this stock left, huh?
No. There were only a few sheets left over, and I sold them to a fellow who came in. I could give you the name of the supply house.
Wait a minute. This fellow that came in, who was he?
Gee, I don't know, except that he was a printer. I could tell that by his hands, the ink stains on him, you know. And by the way he described exactly the paper stock he wanted.
You think this could be a hobby of his?
Oh, no, he's got a shop down the street. He told me that.
Whereabouts down the street?
Just a little below Walnut, I believe. He wasn't really very talkative. Man about 45, medium height. I'm sorry, that's all I can tell you.
That's enough. Thanks very much.
Something in the printing line, gents?
I'm Matthews, Highway Patrol.
Oh, howdy. My name's Scoville.
Tell me, have you got any paper like this?
No, you see, this is top-grade safety paper for checks. We don't get much call for printing checks. I specialize in normal routine job work.
I see. Where can I get paper like that around here?
Oh, you could try some of the big wholesale supply paper houses.
Well, they only sell in large quantities. Suppose I just wanted 4 or 5 sheets.
I'd scout around the stationery stores and print shops. That's what I do. Matter of fact, I had the devil of a time finding the same kind of stock a while ago.
Tell me, where'd you get it?
Oh, up on 5th Street, about 1500 block. Not much use going there, though. Fella told me all he had left. I only needed 4 or 5 sheets.
You say there's not much call for paper like this. Who wanted it?
Well, as it turned out, nobody. 1 minute. I heard an investment house uptown was looking for a direct mail order gimmick. So I decided to print this little brochure using top-grade check paper. You know, dignified, substantial. Used up all the paper before I got it right. Then they turned it down.
Well, that's too bad. It's a nice job. You haven't got any paper like this left, huh?
Not a scrap. You can take that along with you if you like. Sure glad I didn't buy a ream of it. That stuff's expensive.
Thanks very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, this one's from Hartville. That's the Ziegler Glass Company.
Pass for the same gang?
Same MO, same passes, according to the handwriting experts. This time I think we're one jump ahead of them. The handwriting boys came up with a good lead. That cement plant over in Bradley. Seems it's a new laborer over there. His signature matches those of a guy that worked at 3 of the victimized firms.
Not the same name, though.
Well, they're sure he's the same guy. He signs on, works a couple of weeks, phony checks show up, then he quits.
Couldn't very well be coincidence.
No, it couldn't. If the gang works according to pattern, they'll hit Bradley on Thursday. That's payday.
If we spot even one of the passes, we're lucky.
Well, if we get one, he'll lead us to the top man. Get up to Bradley.
Scoville. I just got this check from Mosier up in Earnshaw. This has got to be fast.
Don't they all?
I mean really fast. The wire company up there has landed a big contract. They're hiring men by the hundreds. This is a big shot in the arm for the local merchants. They won't be asking so many questions when a stranger passes a check.
I'm not so sure about that. There was a cop in here yesterday. Had a sample of that check stock we used up on the construction company job. Wanted to know if I had any.
What'd you tell him?
I covered. I showed him that fake brochure I run off just for an alibi. It worked. But it means they're getting warm. It means they're probably on the RMO. I think we're done in this state.
Say, wait a minute. We've been moving north town by town. Earnshaw will be an unexpected jump. All right, we'll forget Bradley. We'll hit Earnshaw hard and get out of the state.
Expecting the forgery ring to victimize the cement plant in the town of Bradley, the highway patrol was ready. Plainclothesmen were staked out in markets and stores where large numbers of the plant employees cashed their payroll checks. Market cashiers and banks were alerted as the patrol stood ready to trail any suspected passer of a bogus check. 5 days after payday, no forged checks on the cement company had cleared through the Bradley banks.
Boy, I sure missed in that Bradley guess. I missed by 23 miles.
Well, maybe they... 23 miles.
Yeah, exactly. They're working Earnshaw. That was Gregory on the phone. They're blasting the town with phony checks from that plant up there.
We could pull our men out of Bradley and get them up to Earnshaw in half an hour.
Well, that would add to the confusion. Earnshaw is full of new workers from the plant. That'll make it easy on the passers. Yeah, what is it?
The boys ran a comparison test on that brochure from Scoville's print shop. I think we have something.
All right, let me have it.
The regular type is machine set. We can't prove anything with that. But the large type, the display stuff, this is hand set. Now, here is a blow-up of a printed word of one of the forged checks. This is from Scoville's brochure. Look at the crossbar on the capital T's. Each has a nick in exactly the same place.
And the same piece of type made both T's.
I'm convinced of it. Hand-set type has individual markings just like a fired bullet. However, I don't think these photos themselves would stand up in court.
Well, suppose we find the actual piece of type in Scoville's shop.
We'd nab a printer and lose the rest of the gang. See what you can find out about Scoville.
I tell you, I don't like it, Docker. We made a good haul at Earnshaw. Why don't we quit while we're ahead?
That cop hasn't been back here, has he?
No, but that doesn't mean that he won't.
Then you have nothing to worry about. We'll go back to the Bradley cement shop. The checks are all printed and forged.
Yes, I suppose it would be a shame at that not to use them.
This will be our last job in this state. You stick around here and clean up the legit end of your business, and nobody will be after you.
That won't take long.
And I'll go back to Bradley and get in touch with the passers.
Where they'll hit next is anybody's guess. Judging from the Earnshaw job, they're starting to change their pattern.
And Johnson didn't find out anything about Scoville.
Well, Scoville's been running the print shop for about 2 months. He rented it from another guy, a guy by the name of Latham. Latham ran it for 20 years. He's 75 years old and in a rest home.
And Scoville doesn't have a record?
No.
Here's the DMV report on that vehicle Lieutenant Wallace was trailing.
Oh, registered to Thad Docker. Did you check the address?
Yeah, it's the Kennebec Hotel. Docker's been staying there about 2 months, the night clerk told me.
Looks like Docker and Scoville belong to the 2-month club.
Yeah, and they hold meetings in Scoville's place after it's closed. Matthews. Where? All right, you stay close to him. I'll have somebody up there to help you within an hour. Docker just checked into a hotel in Bradley at 2 a.m.
Bradley?
He's had 2 visitors so far. Let's get up there.
Early that morning, the chief auditor of the cement plant in Bradley received a visit from the Highway Patrol.
As I understand it, Mr. Matthews, you want us to put a small identifying mark on our payroll checks.
Yeah, that's right. Something that wouldn't be noticed ordinarily, but would stand right out if you were looking for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, how about an asterisk, a small star right under the bank number?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Well, swell. I'll send you a sample check so you'll know just what to look for on next week's checks.
Wait a minute. Tomorrow's payday, isn't it, Mr. Cobley?
Well, yes, but our checks are all made out and signed. Why, to go over them now would upset the whole routine.
I've checked with the auditors of 6 other firms, some of them bigger than yours. Their routine is upset, too. They're trying to trace several $1,000s in forged checks.
And you're sure that we're next?
Yeah, that's the way it looks. Mr. Cobley, a couple of extra hours' work right now will save you and other companies a lot of money.
All right, Mr. Matthews, I'll have those checks marked right away.
Man we think is head of the forgery ring, he's staying in a local hotel. He's had 5 visitors, 4 men and a woman. They could be passers.
Then anyone passing a check without our special mark, we'll know is one of the forgers.
No, it's not quite that simple. Some of the checks out are still good. Let's say up to May 31st. We'll assume they're all good.
Then some of these forgers could slip by undetected.
We're having them tailed all the time. We'll catch them if the clerks don't get rattled.
Yes. To catch these forgers, you have to depend on the merchants to cash some checks they know are fake.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Mr. Cobley, all we're trying to do is get their money back for them. Let me have a sample check so I can give it to the merchants and the banks.
Mr. Matthews, I have complete confidence in your organization. You may give the merchants my personal guarantee that this company will make good on any check presented in our name.
Well, thanks for your cooperation. I got a hunch we can round up the whole gang now. Thanks again.
Look, Turner, hold off passing these until about 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That'll make it look as if you just came off the early shift.
Okay. Where do you want me to meet you? At the hotel?
No. Anybody who has more than 2 guests there is a celebrity. I'll meet you in the alley in back of Cypress Boulevard.
Patrolmen in civilian clothes maintain close surveillance of the suspected passers.
While you were inside, headquarters advised the suspect just entered Becker's Market at 5th and Cedar. I've got 2812 standing by.
Well, looks like they're starting to move. Now it's up to the clerks and cashiers.
The Highway Patrol had alerted scores of merchants and banks and distributed samples of the specially marked checks.
3219 to 2150.
2150 by.
Number 1 suspect checked out of the hotel and is driving east on Cypress Boulevard. He is proceeding well under 30 miles speed limit.
I'd stay with him. 10-4?
Looks like Docker was tipped off.
Yeah, there hasn't been any slip-up with the check passers, but Bradley's a small town. Maybe Docker doesn't want to meet him at the hotel. It'll cause too much excitement.
You figure he's meeting him somewhere else?
It could be. Let's go over and see if 3219 needs any help.
The plainclothes officer trailed the suspected check passer to the alley. The fact that Docker had parked his car in the same alley indicated that this was the probable rendezvous for the forgery gang. This information was conveyed to the other patrol units.
Nice work, Turner. You're the first one through. Any trouble?
Easiest one yet.
took those checks like they were banknotes.
They did, huh?
Yeah, I guess I've got an honest face.
Unit 1619 reported on the activities in the alley. Assuming that this was definitely the payoff location, officers were deployed to apprehend each check passer after the payoff.
Harris is on the roof. Docker's in the alley. One of the men met him. They're making a payoff. I'm sure this is the meeting place. The boys will pick each one up as they come out. We'll stay with Docker.
Say, if you got any more, I could go back and...
That's all, Turner. You better move on.
Docker, I could have my cut now. I'm a little short and...
You know the setup. We all get paid off tomorrow night in Silverton. Here's 20. At least get you to Silverton.
Well, I got one of them. 4 more to go.
Docker must figure something's up or he'd wait for the woman. I bet she ran out on it.
She won't be hard to find. Keep an eye on Docker's car.
In the way he's headed, Docker must be going to meet Scoville.
Could be.
Non-Parole Printing Company.
Docker, anyone with you?
No. Where are you? How do things go up at Bradley?
Hold it. Now, just listen. I'm in town in a phone booth on 10th. I'm being tailed, but I'll ditch him.
Are you positive?
Yeah. Just be ready to pull out. I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Okay. I didn't hear you drive up. Where's the car?
Parked it in front of the hotel, ducked through and out the back door.
What about the cops?
They're still looking for me.
Where's the money?
Here. Come on, let's go.
Hold it! I said hold it! All right, get your hands on top of your head. Payroll checks. All set for your next job, huh?
It ain't a crime to print checks. In the jargon of the trade, we call them samples.
My trade, we call it evidence. All right, come on, move. See the Highway Patrol in action again next week. Until then, remember, leave your blood at the Red Cross, not on the highway. This is Broderick Crawford saying, see you next week.
In the endless battle against crime, law enforcement agencies are sometimes called upon to apprehend a particularly elusive type of criminal, such as the professional check forger. The thief with a pen has one unique advantage over the thief with a gun. A worthless check is like a bomb with a delayed action fuse. By the time the damage is discovered, the criminal is miles away. The passer of forged checks is not necessarily a glib, well-dressed con artist. In a manufacturing area, he may look like any honest factory worker. Or the forger may appear to be an average house.
Not yet, but we know this much. The handwriting experts are sure that the checks are being endorsed by 5 or 6 people using 30 different aliases.
30 sets of phony identification. That's going to make it rough to find the passers.
Yes, they'd have to be caught in the act.
Well, we can't do that unless we know where they're going to hit next. What about the checks themselves?
They're not only excellent forgeries, it's a thorough job of counterfeiting. Look, this is a microphotograph of a check used in the last job. They've even duplicated the type using one of the real checks. And they've matched the paper stock, even to the watermarking and identifying patterns.
Well, our job is to find out who's printing the phony checks. We'll get in touch with all the supply houses, find out where he's getting his type and paper.
This is going to be a rough job. There are over 100 printers who could stock that paper and type.
There's one thing in our favor.
Whenever the laws of any state are broken, a duly authorized organization swings into action. It may be called the state police, state troopers, militia, the rangers, or the highway patrol. These are the stories of the men whose training, skill, and courage have enforced and preserved our state laws.
The guy that did this, he's not a legitimate printer.
Paper manufacturers and type foundries supplied the highway patrol with names of printing firms and stationers that had ordered paper and type of the kind used in the forgeries. One by one, proprietors were questioned and shown blank samples of the check paper. No one shop or store had all the various kinds of paper used in the crimes. Each of the firms contacted had unblemished reputations.
Well, another blank.
Yeah, but we still haven't run out of print shops. Where's the next one?
Oh, see, there's one over in the 800 block on 6th Street.
Let's go to 6th Street.
Housewife presenting her husband's paycheck to a neighborhood merchant. Late in May, the highway patrol became aware that a ring of highly skilled check forgers was operating in the state. Their targets were manufacturing plants employing large numbers of workers in semi-skilled capacities.
4 firms have been victimized in the past 2 months, including yours. These crooks are experts. But look, they're human. They got to make mistakes someplace. We're going to send the checks to our lab for the full treatment. I'll let you know.
Highway Patrol laboratory technicians subjected the forged checks to careful examination. The printing was identified as to type style, and the paper stock analyzed by experts.
Those signatures, anything we can trace in our forgery files?